Hello, everyone. I'm Ray Sanchez, Superintendent of Schools. And during this presentation, I'll be joined by our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Brian Freed. And what we'd like to do is walk you through the proposed budget for the 24-25 school year. So I'm going to start off by sharing that this budget is built on our why. Much of what you'll hear throughout the budget process and in the documents that have been provided is about how and what, but all of our work centers around the students we have the fortunate opportunity to serve. We have about 2,600 students, all with different needs, different abilities, and different interests, and it's incumbent upon us that we continue to adapt our systems based on the needs of our students. This gives you a sense of our students by numbers. Clearly, that our students each have individual stories that we take a deep dive into every day, every month, and every year to really understand who our students are. So we can adapt to their specific needs and interests. And throughout this budget, you'll hear how we've made some of those adaptations. Our budget also centers around our Portrait of a Learner. This was hard work by a committee to really think carefully about the dispositions that we want to instill in all our students, from civic mindedness, perseverance, creativity, curiosity. And again, these are elements that you'll see reflected in our school budget as a main sort of anchor of our thinking. So the budget at a snapshot, there's a focus on continuous improvement, program expansion, academic support, and staffing. This seeks to maintain high quality programs. Our pre-K to grade 12 class size is aligned with our board guidelines, and we looked very carefully at the enrollment projections to kind of determine where we might see increases and decreases in enrollment. We're seeking to enhance and expand our STEM opportunities at science, technology, engineering, mathematics opportunities at JP, Morris, and Washington Irving. This budget seeks to expand dual language. We've seen a great deal of interest in the program, but not enough seats to honor the requests of our families. So this looks at adding more sections starting at kindergarten. After school programs are maintained, this budget does seek to enhance and address various safety and security needs, more specifically at the middle school and the high school. The K-12 enrollment remains stable through the middle school and high school, but that's something that we obviously continue to consider as we think about staffing for the upcoming year. And this budget is recommended to be under the allowable tax levy limit. Some things we considered during the budget process, and I noted it before, we reviewed enrollment projections, thinking about the mental health needs of our students, and considering programming to support the various academic needs of our scholars. This also focuses on our desire to remain fiscally responsible and addressing staffing needs that result from retirements and programming. And as I noted before, it's aligned with our Portrait of a Learner. And the budget is always a balancing act. There's the student needs and enrollment, and then we also have these other components, which Mr. Freed will share in a little bit in a moment, where we have unfunded mandates, health insurance increases that are out of our control, and pension costs. So to just give you a snapshot of our enrollment, this chart reflects our projected enrollment for the upcoming school year, the number of students that we anticipate in each of the grade levels, and on the far right, the projected class size for each of the schools or each of the grades through grade 5. And similarly, the building principals at the middle school and the high school have carefully looked at their needs in terms of staffing to make sure that we have appropriate class size at the secondary level. Some budget drivers include mental health programming, additional requirements related to special education placements. We saw an increase in our interfund transfer to capital for safety improvements, and salary and benefits are all elements that kind of drove much of the costs that we have related to our budget. One exciting piece that we're really carefully looking at is our elementary schedule. Through some reconfiguration of and reimagining of our elementary schedule, we're able to provide high quality programs, but also make sure that some of the staffing can be reallocated in a variety of different ways without jeopardizing the quality of the programs we offer our students. So some of the priorities you'll see, and this is probably more specific to Washington Irving, we anticipate increased opportunities for enrichment, designated periods for academic intervention services, which is AIS, and support services, hopefully more built-in time for collaboration amongst our educators, aligning the schedule, the special education schedule and related services so that there's greater alignment and continuity of instruction and programming across the grade levels. This calls for a move to a 6-day cycle, which is basically, it will go Monday to Monday, meaning that students will have physical education, art, and STEM as part of a continuum. This cycle will allow us to eliminate interruptions to core instruction. It'll provide us more consistent time for science and social studies. We anticipate that there'll be additional periods for special area teachers that can be utilized in creative and enriching manner. It ensures that special area teachers are able to provide special classes for all students, and children won't miss, because of the 6-day cycle, won't need to miss art, music, or others, because we'll make some changes as it relates to that in the calendar, and more specifics will come there soon after. As a result of this schedule plus other moves, we're able to expand our world language offerings at the secondary schools. We're able to expand clinical support, more specifically a social worker at the high school level, and we're able to provide additional academic intervention services, in other words, AIS for students. Some of the capital improvements that we're including in the budget, and first of all, I just want to thank the board, the community, and everyone that's been involved in support of our bond. That's going to make a significant difference as it relates to our facility improvements, but we've still allocated funding for areas that aren't addressed in the bond. So some of them include renovating 2 science classrooms and safety and security enhancements at the middle school and the high school. So at the middle school, you'll see that this kind of gives you a snapshot of what some of the science classrooms look like. They are still in their original state. Instruction has changed. The manner in which we teach has changed, and we want to make sure that our educators have the types of spaces that are going to support the learning that they want to create for our students, and this will do so. And then also related to our capital improvements, but more specifically to safety and security, this calls for interior door monitoring project at the middle school and the high school. It'll help us monitor all the doors at the middle school and the high school in terms of who's entering and who's exiting. And it'll give our leadership and our staff the opportunity to address them in a proactive manner. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Brian Freed, who will speak to you a little bit about some of the numbers associated with our budget.
Thank you, Dr. Sanchez. It's my pleasure to talk about the budget components. And before beginning, I just want to thank, I have the distinct pleasure and privilege to be able to provide some of these numbers and having worked on the budget, but this was a collaborative process, and I'd like to thank all the administrators and the business office staff for all their hard work in the presentation and creation of the budget. So we're going to go over the proposed expenditures, the BOCES overview of our expenditures, projected revenues. We're going to talk about our tax levy limit calculation, take a look at our tax levy history here in the public schools of the Tarrytowns, and then we'll talk about what our estimated tax impact is as a result of this budget that's been adopted by the Board of Education. So these are our proposed expenditures. Here you can see that Okay, needed to make a little adjustment to make the picture smaller so you could actually see the chart. So here in the proposed expenditures, you can see that this budget is projected to go up 4.44% from the previous year's budget. Here you'll see that our BOCES services actually went up in almost to a very similar amount as our contractual expenditures. And the reason for this is anytime we have the opportunity to use BOCES, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later, we do take advantage of that opportunity because it's aid generating and therefore helps with the burden on the taxpayers. But certainly here, the benefits are the significant story here. We had a $1.1 million increase to health insurance alone. So this is the proposed expenditures. And again, it has a 4.44% budget to budget increase. This here is a pictorial representation of what you just saw in chart form. And as you would imagine, salaries and benefits would comprise the vast majority of our budget. And it does. And it's typically between 75 and 80% of any school district budget. So going back to that discussion around BOCES, so when we use BOCES services, we have an aid ratio, and ours is pretty high. So we try to use all of the BOCES services that we are able, if we need the services in any case, because it does increase our state aid in the following year and reduce taxpayer burden. So this chart and associated graph here shares where most of our BOCES expenditures take place. And as one would hope, the vast majority of our BOCES expenditures take place within teaching and learning and instructional media. So the revenues associated with our budget, you'll see that this budget has a 4.91% levy to levy increase. We're anticipating about $150,000 more in payments in lieu of taxes, about $70,000 more in sales tax revenue that we receive from the county. We get health service contract revenue, and basically what that is within our private schools that are in our catchment area, we provide health services, and then we bill other school districts for the residents of their school district who attend the programs. So we're anticipating about $860,000 of a revenue there. Interest and earnings, we're increasing our projections. Certainly where we've been, the interest rate has gone up, and we're anticipating a significant increase in interest and earnings. State aid, we're anticipating a moderate increase, and our assigned fund balance to offset the levy is left flat at $1.5 million, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So we have fund balance, and we say that we're going to assign some of our fund balance to offset the tax burden on our taxpayers, and that will remain at $1.5 million. Here again is that pictorial representation of what our proposed revenues look like. And as one would imagine, the vast majority of our budget and our revenues comes from property taxes, and about a fifth of our budget comes from state aid. So this is a look at our tax levy limit calculation. You'll see that our tax-based growth factor is 1.0431, which is extraordinarily high, and that's due to all of the brand new brick and mortar that's being built within our district, both in the town of Greenburgh and in Mount Pleasant. So that's actually the third highest in the state, and that is what is almost solely generating an extraordinarily high maximum allowable levy at 7.22%. So as you would imagine, 7.22% is a very high maximum allowable levy. We're not suggesting that we would go up to a 7.22, and as we already talked about, the projected levy to levy increase is 4.91%. This graph that you see now is an historical representation of where we've been. The blue graph, or the blue lines determine the or show the maximum allowable levy or the tax increase in each of the years that are here, and the actual tax levy increase is in orange. So you'll see here that in 24-25, we're looking at a similar tax levy increase that happened in 22-23. So we like to project and be able to have our taxpayers and our voters understand exactly what the projected tax impact will be. So and we'll note here that in Greenberg and Mount Pleasant, that 4.91 that we've projected, it doesn't hit each of our townships in the same way. So in the town of Greenberg, we're actually looking at a tax rate decrease of almost 2% that's associated with this budget. And in the town of Mount Pleasant, there's a 4.98% tax levy increase that's projected for Mount Pleasant. So a reminder that our annual district meeting and vote is going to be on Tuesday, May 21st, and it's from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Washington Irving Auditorium for our eligible Tarrytown residents, and in our Morse cafeteria for our eligible Sleepy Hollow residents. And we just ask that you come out and vote on that day. And we thank you for your always continued and unwavering support of the public schools of the Tarrytowns. And thanks for your attention.